Hi, everyone. It's Jamie, your wellness coach. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're having a really good week. In this video, I want to talk about 5 steps that you can put into practice to make healthier food choices. Now, these steps are pretty easy to follow, they're very easy to understand. What's going to matter the most is the effort that you put into them, your consistency, and just how honest you are to them. Because ultimately, what these steps are going to help you do is develop a more mindful relationship with food. So, step number one is crowding out. What crowding out means is instead of completely quitting unhealthy foods cold turkey or completely eliminating them, you start to reduce the frequency of these items as well as the portion sizes. And on the flip side, you increase the frequency and the portion sizes of the healthy options. So, a good example might be, if typically on your dinner plate, you enjoy white rice, you enjoy veggies, and you enjoy some lentils. But majority of your plate, the base of it is white rice, and you have a little bit of veggies and a little bit of lentils. Well, crowding out is kind of flipping that around. So you reduce the portion of the white rice. Instead of maybe having 2 palms full, you only have 1 palm full, and you increase the amount of veggies. So instead of having a really small portion of the veggies on the plate, you double that. And you do the same thing with the lentils. So you see, it's just simple adjustments. You're still getting to eat your white rice, but you're just limiting how much of it you're consuming. And instead, you're adding more of the healthy choices. Now you can get creative with crowding out. So if you really enjoy salty foods and, when you go to the grocery store, you have to grab that bag of chips, that's fine. Again, think a little bit differently. So instead of having the really processed chips, whether they're potato chips or nacho chips, can you make some kale chips at home? Can you make some beet chips at home? Get creative, experiment, because the first time you try something isn't going to be the last. You might be able to try different versions of something or really look for some unique recipes that make your mouth water. So try that. Also, when you get hungry around 2 p.m. or you're getting really tired, it's that slump. And, instead of going for the sugar fix, whether it's coffee with a ton of sugar or whether it's grabbing that cookie or that donut to keep you going, could you switch that out instead for an apple and some peanut butter? The same thing when it comes to chocolate. I understand it. I love chocolate myself, but instead of going for the candy bar, can you try a small piece of dark chocolate? Is it still going to give you the fix that you need? And you won't know until you try. So just give it a shot. Now, step number 2 is don't tempt yourself. So be very careful about what you bring into your environment, where you spent the majority of your time. So if you work from home, that's the environment that matters. If you're going into the office and you spend a lot of time at your cubicle or a lot of time at your desk, be mindful of the snacks and the food items you have around you or hidden in your drawers. That can just make things even harder, even in your home. What do you have in your pantry? Is it stuffed with processed foods? Is it stuffed with junk food? Is it stuffed with, candy bar like M&Ms to keep you going? I mean, what is it? Try not to bring any of that into your environment because that's just going to make things easier for you. If that food is there, you're bound to eat it. I mean, it's impossible to resist that temptation. So either limit how much of it you're bringing home or wherever you are, or, completely avoid it altogether. Now, step number 3 is be prepared. Plan ahead just a little bit, not too much, but think about when you're going out to eat, where are you going to eat? So depending on where you're going to grab dinner with friends or lunch or brunch, if that place has a menu online, check it out. Go take a look at it, see what kind of foods they offer, and really think of this in terms of, okay, what is healthy here? What are some items here that will really satisfy me, but also be good for my body. And, you have to find that balance. Nothing is going to check all the boxes. So think of that mindfully. Look at that menu and just take some time to mull it over. Also, if you're going to a burger joint, for example, think about the sides, and if you're going to order that burger, that's great. But can you forego the fries and instead order the cup of fruit that they have, or a salad if they're serving that with the burger? Or if you don't need a side, just say no to it. That's okay. So these are things you want to think about when you're going out to eat or when you're on a vacation. And the worst thing that you can do is eat on an empty stomach. So do not go out to eat on an empty stomach, because it's going to lead to overeating, and you're definitely going to reach for the unhealthier carbs. So save yourself that nightmare and leave the house with at least something in your belly, whether it's a small protein shake, or if it's just a small snack, like a fruit or a banana, or, just having 5 or 6 almonds, some nuts. So anything that's going to keep you a little bit full and not walk into the restaurant completely ravenous. Now, step number 4 is hydrate. So it's very easy to confuse thirst and hunger. The next time you reach for food outside of your set meal times. So if you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or even if it's just set lunch and dinner, and outside of that, you're reaching for something else, just take a second and ask yourself if you're really hungry, or you're doing this out of boredom, or, that bag of chips is just sitting there in front of you and you want to go ahead and eat it. Or the third question to ask yourself is, am I really hungry or am I thirsty? A lot of times we're actually thirsty, but don't realize that, and instead reach for food when we're not even hungry. So ask yourself, is it thirst or is it hunger? And pay attention to the physiological signs. Is your stomach growling? Are you starting to feel a little lightheaded? Are you feeling tired? Do you need that energy boost? Then yeah, it's probably food that you need. But if it's none of that, what are some of the other signs that are telling you that you're actually thirsty? Plus, getting enough water and staying hydrated is absolutely necessary. So definitely hydrate and know the difference between hunger and thirst for your body. And then step number 5 is read the nutrition label. So figure out, what exactly are you consuming? As you read that nutrition label, and you come across an ingredient that is unfamiliar to you, take a second to Google it. When ingredients sound really complicated, or seem really complicated, more than likely they're not good for you, because food is meant to be eaten in its natural form, right? For the most part, yes, there are some foods that you do need to cook and present at the table. I get that. But even with that, you're reaching for whole foods. So when you're making lentils, you're adding some onions and tomatoes to it, and you're putting it in the pressure cooker. So that is different from having heavily processed foods that have ingredients that you don't know and can't even pronounce. Because a lot of times these ingredients are there to just increase the shelf life of the product, not necessarily your shelf life. So it's important to read that nutrition label. It also gives you an idea of how much of what is in that product. A lot of times there are signs on the, if it's a bottle of juice, it says all natural, no sugar added, or zero sugar added. And when you look at the nutrition label, they've actually added other ingredients that have the same effect that sugar would have, actually even worse, because there are some things that you can only have that taste sweet. You can't have them just the way they're produced. They're not going to taste as good. A good example is having Diet Coke. There are unhealthy ingredients in there that make it Diet Coke. So yeah, the calories may not be there, but it is harming your body. It's not necessarily a good option to have. So take a look at that nutrition label, pay attention to how much of what is going in there, regardless of what the sign says or what the marketing says. All right. So just to wrap it up, 5 steps that you are trying to incorporate into your daily life. One is crowding out. Two is limiting temptation or avoiding it completely. Third is being prepared, planning ahead just a little bit. Fourth is knowing the difference between thirst and hunger and hydrating. And then step number 5 is reading the nutrition label. So I hope you found that helpful. Again, a lot of these steps are easy to follow as long as you make them a part of your life. Just take some self-awareness and to check in with yourself before just grabbing whatever it is that you want to grab in terms of food and asking yourself, is this really good for me? So thank you so much for tuning in and thank you for your time. If you want to learn about more about what I do and how I help my clients, check out my website. It's www.imperfectbodies.com. Imperfect bodies is one word. If you're looking for some really healthy and effective ways to manage your stress levels, I've come up with a list, a free guide that can really benefit you. The link to that is in my description section. So as always, thanks for your time. I hope you have a marvelous week and I will catch you next week. Thanks so much.